Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at Dropdown. So I'm sure you already know what a Dropdown is in the context of web design, web development, but if you don't, it's basically one of these. They can get a bit more complex than that just in terms of the way they look, but in terms of the base code, we'll be covering that and we'll be covering some extra features as well. But what I'll do is provide a link to this Bootstrap website which covers all the different features that you can implement into your drop down, and I'm going to cover a fair few of them, but if I cover all of them it'll be a really long video, and once you get the basics down you can easily have a look here and just get what you need, and a lot of it's just based on classes. Okay, so to implement a basic one is pretty simple. We need a div, and this will have a class of drop down, and in here we need a button. I don't know why I put a question mark. Well, I accidentally pressed it. And this requires a few classes. The first is btn. Then we'll have a class for the style of it, and this essentially is this: primary, secondary, success, info, warning, or danger. And you just put btn, then these keywords, and these are the general sort of contextual colors, styles that you can implement in Bootstrap, and it's lowercase, by the way. And I'm going to be using the warning one. There, put drop down dash toggle, and now I'm going to put type of button. I'm going to put data toggle, and this is going to just toggle a drop down, which we'll be implementing soon. Area dash expanded equals false, so by default it is not expanded, and most likely you won't want it to be, but you can make it if you want it. I'm gonna put the text of click me, and now we implement the drop down. So this is an unordered list with a class of drop down menu list item, and inside here we're going to have an ahref, and we're just going to put a hash, which basically doesn't change the the web page. It doesn't take you to another website or another page. You can make it go to a different website or a different page on your website. That's totally fine, but for the purpose of this front end video, that doesn't really matter. Okay, so we also want a class as well. So class, and the class is going to be drop down dash item, and to close this off, and in here you put what the item is going to display in terms of the message, the text. I'm going to close this down, and that's it. So if you want more, you just duplicate it like so, change the text here, and you can change the link as well. So if I refresh, I'll save there. I'm going to refresh here. There we go. There's that button. If you want to move it from the top, you can use the break rule, you can use margin padding, however you want. That's just styling. So if I click that, we get the drop down. And if I was to click one of these, it will do something, which at the moment just adds a hash here, but if you want to take it to a different page, you can do. The next type of button that I'm going to demonstrate is a split button. It's very similar. I'll just put a break rule, otherwise they'll be just touching, and one, I don't like them touching like that, and two, it's just easy to see that they are two different items. So for the split button, you also want a btn dash group, and the only real thing that we're going to be changing is we're going to have a second button. So we're going to have two buttons, and this is going to have a type button. We're going to have a class of btn. I put btn dash danger. It's good if you keep things consistent. And btn danger. I'm going to call this main button. And you'll see what this is in a second. And here, make sure I've got all the correct classes. And I need one more. This is drop down dash toggle dash split. So everything else is fine. You don't need this here because that click me text is basically what this is now. And what we will put is for screen reader. So we'll put a span which has a class of sr-only, so screen readers only, toggle drop down. So if we refresh, we get this. It may look basically the same, but watch what happens when we click our original button. Watch what happens when I click it here. But now, watch what happens when I click this button. As you can see, it highlights separately. And if I click the drop down in the arrow part, the drop down comes and it's essentially attached to that. Whereas this doesn't initiate the drop down. So you can make that button, so you can put an ahref in here. You can make that go to a different page, and maybe this opens up this menu, and from here you can go to different pages or select different items. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to cover is sizing. So sizing. I'll use the original one. So there's 3 different sizes that you can implement. Let me put a break rule. If I copy that. Okay, where are we? Yes, this one. So for the sizing, where we've got the button, and you can put this in the split button as well, you just put btn-lg for large, btn-md for medium, and btn-sn for small. If I refresh, this is what we get. I needed just an extra break rule after the group. Okay, there we go. So the large is, obviously bigger. The medium is essentially the default one, and the small is a little smaller, but the functionality is exactly the same. So that's sizing. The next thing we're going to cover is arrow direction. So again, I'm going to grab hold of the original one. You can apply these features to any, drop down that you want, and you'll see that they're not just called drop downs. So if I save that, refresh, if I want this arrow here, instead of it pointing down, if I want it to point maybe right or left or up or down, you just put, instead of drop down, you put drop left or drop right or drop up, and it's pointing right now. And as you can see, it opened right. So that's arrow direction. And the one last set of features that I'm going to show you is, and I'll change this one back to drop down, is active and disabled states. So if I refresh, we get this button. If I click on it, I'm clicking this button by this item in the drop down, but I haven't let go of the mouse. That's active now. If you want one of them to constantly be active, all you do is you put active like so, and you can also make one of them or all of them or as many as you want. You can have as many as you want active and as many as you want disabled. So if I was to reload this, and there's no hash there, if I click that, if I was to click item 3, hash doesn't appear, so the actual functionality of that link is, of that button, nothing's happening. But whereas I click one of the others, the hash appears. That's basically what the ahref is navigating to. So there is the highlighted, the active one. So if you've selected something, you can make it active. So that's it. That's really all there is to know. There's a few other features such as menu alignment, which is pretty cool. There's few more menu, regarding the menu content, dividers as well. You just put divider class in a list item there. You can put it in forms, and you can also detect when it's being triggered, when it's being clicked via JavaScript, which is covered right here, and all the different methods are here. So feel free to have a look at the drop down official API guide. I will provide a link to this in the description, and as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to cover list groups. So a list group is just a really cool way of organizing data together. So to implement a list group, you put an unordered list, and this needs a class of list-group, and then here you have list items, and they require a class of list-group-item, and then you put, what text you're going to put. I'm going to put some of my favorite superheroes, and I'll put a total of 5. You can put as many as you want, and I'll put Yoda, Superman, Anakin Skywalker, and Green Lantern. Yeah, so if I save that, refresh, there we go. That's it. That's literally all there is to it, and this is responsive as well. And obviously it spans the full 12 columns because it's in a code 12. If it was in like a code 6, for example, it'd be half. What is it, Bixby on a Samsung phone, that for some reason that got triggered there when I said something about code 12. Okay, so yeah, that's basically what it is. So there's a bunch of other different features and another one. So we'll implement one more of these. So if I copy this, you can make some of them active and some of them disabled. So let's say if I was to make this one active, you just put the class active. So if I made the last one disabled, you just put the class disabled, reload. That is active now. It just means that it's active. It doesn't actually have any backend functionality. You can implement that yourself. That's backend code, which is not directly linked to Bootstrap. Bootstrap just shows you the visual elements, but this is cool. Imagine if these were clickable, and the last feature that I'm going to show you is how to make them clickable in terms of an Ahref. Then maybe you could select one or even more, and this is disabled. Okay, so if we want to, I'll copy the original one. So if I want to make one of them a link or multiple links, you just do this for the the others as well. So what you do is change this from a list item to a href. And I'm going to put a hash just so it doesn't go anywhere, but you can make it go to a separate page on your website or a separate website entirely. One last class that you need, list-group-item-action. And change this to an anchor tag, reload, and as you can see, it has some sort of active hoverable state. And obviously we can click it. Doesn't do anything at the moment, but you can make it do whatever you want. If you don't have this in here, this is what it looks like. You may want it like this. Put some sort of thing with a tilde in there. Reload. It looks like a general link. Whereas with this, it removes the native link styling and implements Bootstrap's own styling. So that's it. That's really it for list groups. There's more, things that you can do, like you can flush it, you can do horizontal layouts, you can have contextual classes, which is just simply coloring, and it's just these classes here. It's the same sort of system, primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light and dark, which we're familiar with. And you can have badges in there. I've got a separate video covering badges as well, so feel free to check that out. The JavaScript functionality, there's fading, and there's a way to detect when events have been triggered on it, and by pure vanilla JavaScript. So feel free to check this out. I will provide a link to this in the description. And as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next awesome Bootstrap video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you how to implement a modal. So what is a modal? If you go to the official Bootstrap website, modal is something like this that appears when you trigger it via a button, for example. And if we click that, it appears. We can't, access the rest of the website. It's grayed out. We have a title. You can have images here. You could have the Bootstrap grid system here, but it just means if you click off it, it exits. If you click the X, goes away. If you click close, it goes away. And save changes, that's more backend functionality, but you could trigger some PHP, some Python, for example, and actually, perform some sort of maybe a database request. Okay, so this is what we're going to be implementing. So a bunch more stuff that you can do, with your modal. You can, vertically center it. You can, use the grid system like I mentioned, and it's all covered here. So feel free, and you can do full screen ones, as well, like so. So feel free to take a look at all the different features available to you for the modal system. I will provide a link to this in the description. So let's get on implementing a simple modal. So first of all, we are going to create a button, and this is going to have a type of button. It's going to be a class. So feel free to check out my separate Bootstrap video covering buttons and the classes available, because all of this is covered there, so I'm not going to rehash that. The data toggle, and what is it toggling? It's toggling some sort of modal, and then you specify a target, and this will be an ID, the ID of the modal, which we have not created yet, and I'm going to call it epic modal. And I'm going to say launch epic modal. So we've got the button now. Now we need to actually create the modal. So we're going to put a div, a class of modal, fade. So we have a fade in animation. The ID, which is this right here. So we can just copy it, paste it. We don't need the hash because obviously the hash just, states that it is an ID, which is stated by this attribute right here. Now we're going to have a tab index. It's going to be -1 just so you can't tab onto it while it isn't, visible. Area dash labeled by epic modal label, which we will implement inside in a moment. And is there anything else we need in here? Yes, an area dash hidden, and by default it's going to be set to true, equals true. And now we're going to have a modal dialog. So div class equals modal dash dialog, and all of the modal stuff will be in here, but then within here we're going to have modal content. This is just the format they required based on the way Bootstrap is designed. And we're going to have a class modal dash content, and then in here what we're going to do is have a couple of 3 main sections. So we're going to have a div for class of modal header. Feel free to change the color, apply your own styling as you want to. And I'm going to put H5, you can put H6, H1, you can put a div tag and style it however you want, but H5 has some nice styling. And the modal title class that just provides some nice styling. ID equals, and it is this one here. That's what it needs to match with. And it's going to be epic title, or whatever you want to call it. Last thing in here, I'm going to put that X button in the top right, which also closes it as well. So this is going to have a type of button, class of close, data dash dismiss equals modal, area dash label equals close, and we don't need any text, but we need a span, and that will be for the actual appearance. So span area dash hidden equals true, ampersand times semicolon, and that's it. So that's it for the header. So we can get out of here. We're going to put the body now. So this is another div. So div, and we're going to put a class of modal dash body, not body. And in here you can put images, you can put videos, you can put paragraphs, whatever you want. I'm going to keep it simple and put the lorem ipsum text, which is a very popular text to put in as a placeholder. So save that. Okay, I don't need to save it yet. I'll save it. It's good to save it anyway. And then we're going to implement the footer. So div, this is where the bottom part is, where you got like close and save change button, for example. Modal, first of all you need to put class attribute and modal dash footer, then button type equals button class equals btn dash secondary. Again, you can do whatever theme you want. This is the one I've chosen. Data dash dismiss equals modal, so this will dismiss the modal when pressed, and this is going to say close. And the save button, I'm going to put that as primary style. We don't want it to dismiss the modal. You can make it if you want to, but that's totally up to you. Again, this doesn't save anything. This is just the front end to show you how to format it and what it could look like. Now if we go back, refresh, we get the launch app modal, click it, it launches it, and now let's just make sure all of the buttons are working. So that works, if I click off it, that works, and save doesn't do anything as of yet, and it is also responsive as well. And if you go on here, you can see how to do different sizes as well. So it was over here somewhere. So if you wanted anything below a medium size to be completely full screen, which we should be triggering now, you can do. It's a similar process, and obviously that will look great on mobile. So that is it. That is how you implement a modal. Very simple one, but the principle is the same. You can add images, more text, you can add the Bootstrap grid system, which is all covered in here. You can add whatever you want. If you have any questions though, feel free to pop me a message, or comment in the comment section, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you how to implement a nav. So what is a nav? So let's just flick over to the Bootstrap official website, and it's like this. It essentially allows you to show some sort of navigation based system. So you could have in here they're just hashes, and that's what we're going to do so they don't go to another page or website, but they could go to a different page, a different website. You can make them into like a tab system with JavaScript that allows you to do stuff like you put drop downs in there like this, so it shows you different content. So instead of having all the content displayed, which can be overwhelming to the user, it can make your website look cluttered. You're going to show a little bit, and if they want to see the profile stuff, they can click that. If they don't want to see contact information, they can click that. So I'm just going to show you some basic ones, and you can see the rest of it like this, for example, and using drop downs on the official Bootstrap website, which I will provide in the description. Okay, so to implement one, what you want to do is create an unordered list, and it's going to have a class of nav, have a list item, and it's going to have a class of nav dash item, and we're going to put a class nav dash link. We're going to put active. So active doesn't specifically style it in any way on a regular, nav, but it's good to have it to show the one that is active. Plus, it's useful for a different type of nav, like a tab bar one, which we'll show you in a second, the tabbed one. Okay, so we're going to put area dash current equals page href hash, and I'm just going to say active. So this is the first one. I'm just going to say active. Okay, so let's copy and paste this, and we'll just need a few different changes. Okay, so that we're leaving that the same. We don't want active anymore because we only ever want one active, so we can get rid of this as well. And that's it. And then you just change whatever the text you want it to be. So link, like so. And I'll show you one more, and this will be a disabled one, so you can't actually select it. So you put disabled here, because you don't want to be able to tab to it either. So this is just some housekeeping. I'm going to put -1, and then we're going to say area dash disabled is true, and I'm going to say disabled. Save that, go back, refresh, there we go, and that's it. Obviously we can't click that one. They don't do anything at the moment, but they could potentially take you to a different page or website. Now let me show you positioning with these navs. So I've just duplicated it, and what you can do is on the outer nav, so the unordered list, you can say justify dash content dash center. So by default it's all the way to the left of the parent container. We'll do that. It's now in the center, which is pretty darn cool. And I want you to figure out, just look at the website, how to do it all the way to the right. Okay, now let me show you a tab system. And the tab system is pretty simple. There's only one thing that you gotta add, and is a class nav-tabs. That's the beauty of using something like Bootstrap. Once you've set up the initial, let's say in this case a nav, to manipulate it and make it look different, add different features, it's usually just a class or two that you have to add. So the developers of Bootstrap have put a lot of time and effort into making this as easy as possible. So save that, go back, refresh, there we go. It's a more tab-like system, and this that looks like the active one is based on this active class, because if you was to remove it, it would no longer be active. So this is one of the navs where the active class does actually have some styling, but it's good to put that there, and the area dash current for page as well, for whichever one is currently active. So that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am gonna cover the navbar. So what is a navbar? Let me refresh this page so it's just blank. I'll do some code I was doing before. So a navbar is one of these that you would get at the top of your website. It may span the entire width of the website, it may not. It depends on its positioning. What makes it so it's similar to this, so it spans the entirety. So navbar stands for navigation bar, as I think you've already guessed. So if we go to our code, if you was to put it within the container itself, it will be limited by the container's width. And with a regular container class on a big screen like this, you will have sort of empty space on either side, and that is that may be what you want. If we go to eBay, they actually have sort of two navbars. You've got this one here with this full horizontal line, and then we have just this part here. So this is also kind of like a navbar, as is this. So both are useful. So if you put it outside here, we get a full width one. Put in here, it's limited by the container. If you put container dash fluid, that's all the way, but remember there is some padding on the side. And if you was to put it in a column, then you would actually, just demand a column, column spaces that it is spanning. And you can do that. It's totally up to you. You may not want to put it at the top of the website. It may just be at one little section of the website. So what you want to do is put a nav tag, and this requires a class of navbar -expand-lg. So this means once it hits the large screen size, large breakpoint, then it expands. Otherwise it goes, more compact. And feel free to experiment with this. Navbar-dark and bg-dark as well. Okay, so you can do light as well. So this navbar-dark refers to the actual items in there, like the text, the buttons. They're going to be there. If it's dark, if we use the dark class, they're going to be light colored because they need to show up on the dark background. And if this is light, then they'll be dark colored because they need to show up on the light background. So feel free to experiment with that. Plus, I will provide a link to the navbar link in the description, and in there you can see how to add images. You can see in there how to do, we're going to cover quite a lot of it, but you can see how to, do all sorts of stuff like color schemes as well. Obviously we're covering this one right here. Okay, so what we want to do now is put a div, and we're going to put a class of container-fluid. This is one of the rare instances, it's alright to have more than one container, because you may not want your content to be in a fluid container. You may want it more like this. And now in here, we're going to have all of the content. So first of all, we'll have an A tag. And again, you can format this however you want. Let's have a class of navbar-brand. And I'm going to have a href. Just put hash so it doesn't actually go anywhere. But you can make it go wherever you want. And I'm just going to put the text navbar. You can think of this like the logo or like the text name of your website. And now we're going to put a button. I'm going to have a class of navbar-toggle. Type equals button. Data-toggle equals collapse. Data-target equals epic navbar. This is the navbar that it's part of, which we'll be creating just after this button. And there's area-controls equals, you just put it the same as the ID that we've just put there. Area-expanded equals false, like so. And area-label equals toggle navigation. We won't see this. This is just for the attributes. And now in here, we're going to put a span. And we're going to put a class of navbar toggler-icon. So this is okay, I am back. So yeah, I just had to restart the computer. I closed a bunch of things down. Just was not doing it. There was I did restart. It's all good in the hood now. Okay, so yep, that was it. We're doing the button. That's all done for the button now. We're gonna have the sort of main area that can collapse depending on the size of the screen. This is gonna be a div, a class of collapse, navbar-collapse, and an ID of, and the ID will be what we put here. So this is what it's actually referring to, this button is. Okay, so yep, that's it for this. Inside of here is where we're gonna have a bunch of content. So first of all, we're gonna put an unordered list, and we'll put a class of navbar dash nav, then mr dash auto, so this auto margin on the right, margin at the bottom we'll put 2, and margin bottom dash large we'll put 0. It just, you know, just makes it look a lot more pleasing aesthetically speaking. Okay, so let's actually add some nav items. So to do that, put a list item, put class, and put nav dash item, and we're gonna have a total of 4 of these, and they're gonna have, you know, different stuff inside, but we'll just duplicate this. You can have as many as you want, that's totally up to you. Obviously if you have too many, it can look a bit too cluttered, and if it's on a small screen size, it may not look very good, so just bear that in mind. But other than how it looks, there's no actual limitation on how many items you can put in there. There isn't a restriction, for example. Okay, so first one, I'm gonna have an A class nav dash link, and I'm gonna put this as active, so it's almost like we're on this web page, or this, you know, this page on the website. Area dash current, and we'll say the current thing is the page. Href, just put hash, and let's put home here. So that's very common to have some sort of home link inside, and then we'll have an A class nav dash link. You probably only want one that's active. There's only one really, let's say, page, if this is what they're referring to, would ever be, you know, you would ever be on. We're going to put href, and for the text, just put something like link. Just keep it simple. Now what we're going to do, this one we're going to make a lot more when I say a lot more complex, just a little bit. We're just going to make this into a drop down just to show you how you can add other items in there as well. So A class equals nav dash link, and then we need a class of drop down toggle, drop down dash toggle, ahref hash. Then we need an ID, navbar drop down. Then we'll have a role, and the role will be button and a data dash toggle. So what is it toggling? It's toggling some sort of drop down. So feel free to check out my separate video covering drop downs and all the little things that you can do with that. So I'm just glancing over it for the most part. We drop down, I'll do a little quicker false. In here we'll literally have the text drop down. Now we need to actually have the drop down itself, so this is going to be an unordered list, and it's going to have a class of drop down menu area dash labeled by navbar drop down, basically what we've put here. We're going to put that there. And now in here we need a few just drop down items. So we need a link, a list item, not a link, a list item. What else do we need? A class. Again, feel free to check out the drop down video and the drop down page for the API guide on Bootstrap for more information, because obviously you can organize it and put whatever elements you want in there. This is just a example that I think looks pretty good and demonstrates the feature that I'm trying to showcase in this video, which is a navbar. Okay, so we're gonna have another one, and it's called this another action, and then we'll have like a separator, list item, HR tag, having this closing one is not necessary. I know a lot of people have asked me, why do I put it in there? You know, honestly, it's just a habit. One, if you use something like XHTML, which is like XML with HTML, then in XML, they're very strict with the tags. All tags have to be closed, even if they do not have a corresponding, separate close tag, the way list items or unordered lists or divs or spans or most, HTML tags do. So again, it doesn't break it. It's just, I think, one, I like the look of it, and two, I think this is a good habit to be in, because closing a tag is better if you don't need to close it than not closing the tag when you do need to close it. Okay, so it's almost like an insurance almost. Okay, so we're gonna have another one of these items. Again, we're just gonna keep it the same and just put something else, like something like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is implement the final nav item in here, and I'll make this one like a disabled one, so you can see you can use disabled items in there as well. So depending, maybe if they're a certain type of user or they're on a certain page, they can't use this particular nav item. So I want to put nav-link disabled. That is what makes it disabled. And ahref as hash. We'll put tab index as -1, so you can't tab onto it. An area disabled equals true, and we'll put disabled there. So that's just what it's showing in terms of the text. Now what we're going to do is add a little form for a search button as well, like a search box, because that's very common to have in nav bars as well. So if you're searching the website, especially if you're on an e-commerce platform or a social media platform, they'll have something like this. So d-flex for the class, and we'll put an input class form dash control mr-2. We'll put a type of search, placeholder equals search, area dash label equals search, and we'll put a button here as well, which is what you would essentially click on to search using this input. You can always click enter as well, but you can disable that if you don't want that. So btn dash outline dash success. Feel free to modify this however you want and put whatever type of button you want in there. Submit, search, save, and we should be ready to have a look. Okay, so this little button is not showing up properly. Let's see what's wrong with it, because it shouldn't actually be showing up there. So something is wrong with this button. Let's have a look. Hello, in this video we are going to implement pagination. So pagination is great if you've got multiple pages. Let's say if you're displaying some content. So if you're on eBay, for example, search for PS4, we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom. We've got a bunch of items. If we keep scrolling, we get this. Basically allows us to go to the next page of items. So this is great if you have multiple items, you want to display a lot of content, don't want to display it all on the same page. It's just a good way to limit it. One, it's good for bandwidth. Good, two, depending on what sort of device, it may be slow on there even if they do have good internet. And three, it's just a better user experience. So this is a great way of doing it. A lot of websites use this. So that's what we're going to be implementing. So one thing I want to say is this isn't showing you how to create something like eBay where you got the backend loading stuff. That's backend code that you would link with something like PHP or Python. But this is literally just the front end of how it looks. So to implement it, it's pretty simple. You put a nav, and I've got a separate video covering navs in general, so I recommend that you check that out. This will have an area label. This will just put page navigation example. I'll spell example correctly. There we go. Okay, now we're going to put an unordered list, and this is going to have a class of, drumroll please, pagination. Okay, so now we're going to have a list item, and in here we're going to have a class of page-item, and we're going to have an anchor tag of class page-link, ahref equals hash area-label equals previous. And you'll see what this is. This is basically, you know, that sort of like back arrow that you would get like that, for example. It looks a lot different in the built-in Bootstrap one, but you can use another one if you want to create your own image, get an icon from, you know, online, you know, that's fine, totally up to you. And now in here, we're gonna have a span. Gonna have area-hidden. This needs to be within the actual first opening tag. Area-hidden false. No, sorry, true. And I'm gonna put ampersand with ampersand. There we go. Ampersand LAQUO semicolon. And I'm gonna add a bunch of the page items. So I'll copy this, save some time. We're going to put in here. I'll put it on all on one line for just for this. I'll put an anchor tag, and this is gonna have a class of page-link ahref there's the closing one, and I'm just gonna put the number 1 in here. I'm gonna duplicate this, print 2. You'll see what these refer to in a second. You may already have guessed. If you have, fantastic. If you haven't, don't worry, you will pick it up in a moment. And we'll need one of these at the end. The only difference with this one, instead of saying previous, I'm gonna say next, and instead of L, which is left, we're gonna have right. And apart from that, we should be good to go. Reload, we get this. This is what we get. Obviously, you can position it however you want. I will provide a link to the pagination website where you can see different ways of doing it, sizing, alignment, all that stuff. But let me show you how to make one of them active. So imagine if we're on page 2, for example, of our eBay search or our website search. What you do is go to your page item. And obviously you do this automatically in code depending on which one is selected, but that's what you would add. That's it. That's all there is to it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you how to implement a popover. So if we go to the official Bootstrap website, popover is something like this. If I click this button, you get a little popover, and it just provides some extra information. So you provide whatever extra information you want. So that's it. That's really all there is to a popover. There's a few more things, you know that you can change the direction that they come from. You can dismiss on click as well, and you disable elements, all other stuff. I'll provide a link to the official Bootstrap website so you can actually check all the other features out, but we'll be covering the nuts and bolts of it in here. So let's go over, and first of all, to get a popover, we need to implement like something that you would click, a button. So feel free to check out my button video where I covered the button classes and the button system in Bootstrap. So I'm just going to quickly just go over, just quickly type it out because I've already covered it in a separate video. Okay, so now we need to specify what we're going to toggle. So data-toggle equals popover, and we specify a title, and this is going to be epic popover. Now we need to specify some content, and you can put whatever you want. So data dash content equals some very epic content, and now just put a little thing like so, popover toggle, basically what we're going to display in the button. So there we go, we got the button. If we click on it, this pop-up doesn't appear with the title and the content. So what we need to actually do is enable our popovers. In this case, we've only got the one, but if you have multiple, this would cover that as well. So what you do, you need to run some JavaScript. You can run it in a separate file or at the bottom, whichever you like. And we're going to create a variable called popover trigger list. Popover equals square brackets dot slice dot call document dot query selector all. So we're basically just going to check for, this is pretty cool, we brackets there, square brackets are inside, and we're going to check for data dash toggle equals popover. So we're checking for any elements that have this data toggle, because chances, frankly, if it has this, then it's popover. If it doesn't, then it's not a popover. So now we're gonna just get a list of everything. So var popover list equals popover trigger list dot map function and popover trigger. So this is just going over every single individual trigger, and curly brace like so. Let me just make this up. Almost done. Now we just need to put return new bootstrap dot popover. So basically we're just saying if this is clicked, return this particular popover with popover trigger. And this popover trigger, has all of the title and the data content. So if I save that, go back, reload, click it, we don't get it. So let's make sure we get no errors. No errors. Let me empty cache and hard reload. Okay, still not working. Okay, so I'll probably just made some spelling mistakes somewhere. Let's have a look. Type button good. Class, actually the class doesn't really matter. Data dash toggle, looking good. Popover. Title equals epic popover. Again, the title shouldn't really affect it. Then data dash content. Okay, that's looking all good. So I probably made a little silly mistake here. Var popover trigger list equals square brackets dot slice dot call open brackets document dot query selector or open brackets quotation mark square brackets data dash toggle equals quotation mark there. That's probably it. And if I go back, there we go. I just missed off a end quotation mark inside of the quotation mark, and that's it. That's really all there is to it. Like I said, you can have a look on how to change the direction it comes from, dismissing it, so we can click off it like so, because at the moment we would have to click it again for it to disappear. So feel free to check them out, and if you have any questions, as usual, pop me a message, comment, however you can get in touch with me, just do that. Plus there's a Discord channel, there's a link to that in the description, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you how to implement a progress bar, which is known as a progress component in Bootstrap. So progress component is one of these things, and there's a bunch of different things that you can do. You can put multiple bars, you can stripe them, you can animate them like so. I'm just going to show you a basic implementation of one, and then you can change it as you need to, and I'll provide a link to this in the description. So this doesn't automatically, just move along. That's something you will need to implement via JavaScript, and that's something I want you to do as an extra task. Okay, so to implement one, really simple. We put a div, a class of progress, and then we put another div, and this has a class of progress bar, and then we have a role, which is progress bar, and then we have a style, and the style is basically how much of the bar we want to be filled. So I'm going to put a width 50%, so 50% of it will be filled, and area dash value now, so the current value, which is, well, just 50, assuming we are doing it out of 100. So the reason we need the value is, why we need to implement it is, maybe we are implementing a website where the user clicks the button and maybe tells the user what is the current progress. To do that, it needs a value, and that's where it gets it from. And next, we need to specify area dash value min. So what's the smallest value that it can take? Keep it simple and put 0. Next, we need to specify area dash value max equals 100. So it ranges between 0 to 100. If you want more precision, you could do 0 to 1,000, 0 to 10,000. If you want to be able to go into negatives for whatever reason, depending on what you are essentially displaying, you can go negative 100 to 100, or negative 100 to 50, or negative 17 to 10, whatever you want. But 0 to 100 is a good, range. Just put 50% there. That 50% is just basically what it is there. What I'm gonna do is actually just put a new line tag here, break line tag I should say, and that way you can see it a bit better. So as you can see, it is responsive and 50% across. So if I change this to, let's say, 75%, only the text changes. We need to change this and this, because obviously values are important as well. There we go. Now we're 75% of the way along, regardless of the screen size. So yeah, what I want you to do as an extra task is implement a button, and when you click that button, it essentially, let's say, just adds 1 to the progress bar. So if I, let's say, clicked it, go to 76, clicked it again, go to 77. So a little, hint of what you need to do. You will need JavaScript. In your JavaScript, you will need, and obviously you will need some button as well. You will need to detect when the button has been clicked. Then within that, event, you will need to get hold of this. I recommend attaching some ID to it so you can easily get hold of this specific progress bar, and then you will need to use JavaScript to manipulate the style attribute, or the more specifically the CSS width and the value now, and also the text inside, the content inside. So that's what you need to do as an extra task. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next awesome Bootstrap video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you how to implement a scroll spy in Bootstrap. So let me show you what a scroll spy is by going to the official Bootstrap API guide. If you scroll down, we got this example in a navbar. That's the example that we'll be implementing. If I scroll down, as you can see, when we go to a certain particular different section of it, it highlights which one we're on. And now we're on like the one that's marked as 1. That's part of the drop down. If we go to 2, and there we go, and 3. So that is pretty cool. You can implement it using a nested nav as well. You can implement it using a list group. I recommend that you have a go at all the different ways of doing it, but we're going to be using a nav. So let's go over here. First of all, we need to add some CSS. If you have a separate designated CSS file for this particular page, feel free to use that one. Because it's very basic, I'm just going to keep it on the same page. So you need to make the body position relative. for using it with a nav, otherwise it just doesn't work very well. And I'm also going to do dot container margin dash top of 100 pixels. Reason I'm doing that is because we'll be putting the nav bar. Also forgot to mention, I've covered nav bars and navs in a separate video, so feel free to check that video out. So I'm going to be going over the nav part of it pretty quickly, just because I've covered it in a separate video. Okay, yeah, because the nav bar will be here at the start of the body, and I don't know why Bootstrap does it like this. If you just put a nav bar there, this content, the container where your main body of your website will be, gets overlapped by this. So this starts at the top, the nav bar starts at the top, and the nav bar has a greater Z index, so it's basically on top of it. So we want to just sort of, by doing margin dash top, we are moving this down a little bit, or you could do margin dash bottom on the nav bar. That's the only reason we're putting that here. Okay, so we also need to, in the body, do a data dash spy scroll data dash target equals hash epic navbar. So this is a navbar that we are going to create that's going to have an ID of epic navbar. We have not created that yet, but we will literally start doing that now. So nav, and we're going to put ID equals epic navbar class equals navbar dash light bg dash light px dash free fix dash top. Okay, and next what we're gonna do is just put like a title heading thing here. You could put an icon, an image, that's totally up to you. So navbar brand href. I'm going to put a hash so it doesn't go to a different page or website, but you naturally would make that go to a different page or website, usually probably the home page of your website. Next, what we are going to do inside the nav is put a unordered list. So unordered list, and this is going to have a class of nav dash pills. I'm going to put a list item. This is going to have a class of nav dash item, and in here we're going to have an anchor tag class equals nav dash link, href equals hashtag Batman. So this is going to be a section that we'll navigate to, and we'll get some like an image off the internet and some text basically to describe a few different of my favorite characters, and those will be the different sections that we'll be scrolling through. And yep, that's it. So we need as many list items as you want. I'll have a total of 4. Just bear in mind, because the nav bar only has a certain size, if you put too many it can look not very good. You're still going on multiple lines, so just bear that in mind. This one is going to be Superman, this one's going to be Yoda, and this one is going to be Anakin. Forgot one thing in here. We need to actually put the text that appears, because you could click that and go to that section as well. You don't have to just scroll and see the nav bar is keeping up with where you are on the page. That's totally up to you. Okay, so now that we've done that, in our container we can actually implement the content, because if we look at it now, this is what we get. So we want to be able to click these or scroll through these and actually go to the particular page, section on the page. So in here we're going to have a div, and this is going to be data dash spy equals scroll data dash target is going to be equal hashtag navbar, like so, and we're going to put data dash offset equals 0. And now we can start literally just putting our content, like formatting our web page. So we're gonna have a h4 tag. You could have any sort of h tag you want, an ID, and this ID is going to be the section. So Batman, Superman, Yoda, and Anakin. And in here we'll just put the name of the character. We're gonna have a p tag, and we are gonna have an image as well. And I'm gonna have a class of w-100. This will just make it, 100% of the width of its parent container, which in this case is this div, and this will be, relative to, column 12. So that way the images, regardless of the screen size and regardless of the original image, are full size and they don't go over, the screen if it's on a really small screen. And src, we will implement that in a second, but that's basically the format. So let me duplicate this. This is gonna now be Superman. This is gonna be Yoda. Have I duplicated it too many times? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, okay, we're good. We're good. Before I had duplicated it too many times. It's gonna be Anakin. If we go back, refresh, that's what we get. So it just goes to the bottom one because that's there because there's no content here. So let's actually put some text and an image. So if I type in Batman, we're going to grab a hold of this text. There we go. We're going to get an image. I will be using the first one. Put that there. Now let's get Superman. Superman. Actually, let me show you something. I think this one, if we copy the image address, it gives us this massive, I know one or two of them do, and you might come across this. Now, this one doesn't, so this is all right. The other one will. So let me show you. Yeah, I will show you in a second. Let me get the text, the description. Superman, I am excited to see the Snyder Cut next year, see what that is like. And now let's get Yoda. I'm positive Yoda had this, not an issue, but if we go, let's get the text first. Now let's get an image for Yoda. Let's get this image. If I was to copy image address, this is actually working all right at the moment. Like sometimes it was giving me this massive, I don't think it's because I was copying that now. It was giving this massive sort of data attribute, which is not what you want, and it just is massive as well. Next one is Anakin. Ooh, bless me, just sneezed. Okay, so let's get this text. Let's put this Yoda and put that there. Let's get an image of Anakin Skywalker. I'm pretty sure like this did it when I go to copy image address. It may have been because it hadn't loaded, possibly. Ignore what I'm saying. Okay, so almost there. So we just want to add a bit of JavaScript now. So if we go down, open up some script tags. Again, if you have a separate designated JavaScript file for this particular page, feel free to use that one. I do not, and this is a simple example, so I will just be putting it here. Add event listener. When we resize the website, the browser, we want to call this method resize window, which is what we're going to implement right now. And in here, the reason what we want to do here is basically refresh all our data spy element just because when we're resizing it, sometimes the scrolling position can be a bit off. If we go from a big size to a small size, it may not, adjust accordingly. So you want to just put this var data spy list equals square brackets dot slice dot core document dot query selector all and single quotation marks square brackets data dash spy. So this is going to get any element with the data spy scroll attribute, which is the ones we want. We should be good to close that now. Make sure you close the quotation marks inside because it doesn't automatically close it. I did make that mistake on a previous video and I did fix it in the video, but that was time wasted. I guess I learned from it, so not completely wasted. Function data spy element. And now in here we're just going to say bootstrap dot scroll spy dot get instance data spy element dot refresh. And there we go. We should be ready to see what we get. Make sure we get no errors in the console, which we do not. Great. And it's selected Batman. If I start scrolling, once we get to the Superman section, it's Superman. If we go to the Yoda section, it's Yoda. If we go to the bottom, it's Anakin Skywalker. And we can click on a particular one as well. So we can resize it. We have Batman, Superman, Yoda, and Anakin. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next awesome Bootstrap video. Hello, in this video we are going to implement spinners. So what is a spinner in Bootstrap? If we go here, that's it. So it's a great way of showing to the user that something's loading, something's happening, something's in progress. There's a few different ones. I will show you, 3 different ways of doing it. Feel free to come to this website. I will provide a link in the description to see all the different ways, all the different colors, the patterns, all the things that you can do. Okay, so what we're going to do, first of all, I want to put a break rule tag, just because if you don't, the spinner will literally be touching the top. It's just a little, I'll say, looks a little nicer if it's a little further down. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to put div class equals spinner dash border. So this is just a hollow one, like a circle, like a donut essentially, and the role will be status. And here we're gonna have a span, not a spab. What's a spab? A span. Class sr dash only loading. So this is just for screen readers, but it's good to accommodate that side of users as well. Click, there we go, that's it. And you might be thinking, why is this loading? This isn't loading anything. This is just a visual cue to the user that something is loaded. Obviously, you would implement that via JavaScript, maybe some sort of backend call to PHP or Python. And then using JavaScript, you could get rid of this loading icon. So as an extra task, what I want you to do is, let's say after 5 seconds, remove this spinning item and maybe display some text, for example. It doesn't have to be loaded, it could just be hard coded, just use JavaScript. And you could, implement the jQuery library and use that as well, because it does make things easier. Okay, so next, I want to put a couple of break rule tags, just because I remember when I implemented it before the video to test it, it just looked a little nicer with 2. Obviously you would have other content here as well. The next one I want to show you is this sort of almost glowing one. Spinner dash grow text dash danger. So this is just the color, the theme of it, and you can see all of that on the Bootstrap website. Like I said, I will provide a link to that in the description. Role equals status, span class equals SR only, loading, and I'll implement the last one as well while I'm here. This is going to be in a slightly different format. This is going to be within a button, and we're going to have a class of BTN. Feel free to check out my video on buttons in Bootstrap and all the cool stuff that you can do with that. Not primary type equals button. I'm going to put it disabled because that's what you'll probably do when something like this happens. Maybe you've clicked on the button, you would implement this attribute using JavaScript and, you know, put this spinner inside as well, which we're going to put right now. So span class spinner dash border dash sm, so small, role equals status area dash hidden equals true, and nothing in here. We're actually going to have loading text now, and if we reload, let's see what we get. So this is sort of like a growing flashy one. This is more of a classic one. We got this classic one within a item like so. So let me have a look what we got here. So yeah, everything looks, this should have been in here. There we go. Formatting better, and it looks better now instead of just being at the bottom. I was thinking something looked weird, but there you go. That is how you implement spinners. Like I said, there are more, you know, that you can do with it in terms of the alignment, the positioning, the sizes. You can have it with one of these flashy ones inside. You can have it without the text. Feel free to experiment. That's the best way to learn. And as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you the toast component in Bootstrap. No, toast isn't in Bootstrap something that you can eat, unfortunately, but what a toast component is, it's kind of like a notification on the website itself. So you know how you might get some sort of notification like on your OS or on your phone, you might get something on the website, maybe something's completed, maybe you want to alert the user that they've got a message. You can do that with a toast component. This is what it is. I will provide a link to the Bootstrap API guide in the description so you can actually, you know, check out all the different features. I'm just going to show you how to implement a basic one. And first of all, what we are going to do is add a button, and the button is what is going to trigger the toast notification. So class BTN success. Feel free to check out my video on buttons for more information about, well, buttons. And I'm going to say onClick is going to call a method called toasty, which we will implement in JavaScript shortly. Let me close this down so you get a bit more room to play with. And I'm going to make the button say toast me up. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I don't need that there, I don't know why I did that. Now what we're going to do is actually implement the toast. So you need a div, and this will have a class of toast. Keep really wanting toast now. I had 2 slices this morning. ID equals epic toast, and this is what we will be using to refer to it, in the JavaScript code. I'm going to say role equals alert area dash live equals assertive. Then we're going to have an area dash atomic, and we're going to make this equal to true. And we're going to have some styling as well. I'm just going to show you what it looks like without the style. and it's basically regarding position. There's more information about that on the Bootstrap page. Like I say, you can check that out, but I will show you that as well. But I want to show you what it looks like without it. So first of all, well, there's two main components within a toast. You have the header, which is signified by this, and you also have a toast body. So let me copy and paste this. Instead of toast header, I'm going to say toast body. Realistically, there's no limitation on what you can put in here. You can put images, you could put anything really. Probably want to keep it simple with some text, like a title in here, and just some text in the body explaining what this toast is about. So I'm going to put strong. Again, this is just total formatting and you can do it however you want. We're going to say class equals mr-auto, so margin right auto. It just looks nicer. I'm going to say Bootstrap toast. You might say something like, if you create a social media website, might say Bob has commented on this post, for example. And then I'll say small. I'm going to say I want some toast. And we're going to have a button. This is going to be the X button in the top right that allows you to close that toast down. The toast will automatically disappear after a little bit of time anyway, so it's it will disappear. You can make it stay there forever. There's more information about that on the Bootstrap page, so feel free to check that out. I'm going to put a type of button, and we're going to have a class. Put ml, so margin left 2. Again, this is what I've just checked out, and it looks pretty good. This is meant to be inside the class, and we want this to be closed, so it has the X, the styling. Data dash dismiss equals toast, because that's what it is essentially dismissing. And we also need a area dash label. I'm just going to close, and now what we're going to do in here, we're going to have a span area dash hidden equals true, and I'm going to put ampersand times semicolon. Okay, so we're just going to put some some body in here. So hello world, I am eating toast. So if I save that, go back, refresh, this does nothing at the moment because we haven't implemented any JavaScript. So let's go down here. After we've included all the libraries, let's open up some script tags. If you have a separate JavaScript file for this particular page, feel free to put in there. Because my example is very simple, I'm just going to put it all on the same HTML page. Okay, so what we want to do is first of all create an option array, and this is basically going to have some options. So we say animation true, just looks a little nice with animation. Delay is 2000, so 2 seconds is measured in milliseconds, and you can check out all the options if you scroll down to here. So there's really only 3 options. Auto hide is what I was talking about, so if you set that to false, it won't hide after X amount of time, which is what the delay property represents. Okay, so if you want to add more, in this case it's one more, put a comma, and then add the next one. These spaces, these spaces aren't required. I just prefer the look of them. So semicolon. Almost forgot about that. Fans, JavaScript is pretty loose with it, but you should still put it in. It's just good habit. Now we're going to put a function which is called toasty, and this toasty refers to this on click right here. So on click, this will get triggered in here. First of all, we need to get the HTML element, the toast that does not appear yet. To get that, you just do document .get element by ID, and the ID is this right here. So if I copy that, paste it here, Now we've got the element. You can't actually show the toast until you've actually created a Bootstrap toast component out of this element. So what we'll do is say var toast element equals new bootstrap.toast, and you need to specify toast HTML element, and need to specify these options as well. Next, what we're going to do is say toast element. So this one right here, this is now a Bootstrap component dot show, and there's 3 different methods. If we go here, you can see them right here. So there's show, hide, and dispose. So if I reload, click it, we get the toast, and after, as you can see, after 2 seconds, it disappears. But I can make it disappear by clicking the X. That's what it looks like. It's pretty simple stuff. It doesn't go away if I just sort of click off it. It goes away after 2 seconds, but you can make it go away if you click away from it. Again, that's all available here. But this shows up literally just below where it's being triggered from, if in this case a button. Usually you have them like pop up in the top right or in the bottom right or something like that. So let's put it in the top right. That's that styling that I was talking about that I didn't implement. I just wanted to show you what it looks like without any styling. You feel free to abstract this out into some style tags or into a CSS file. But again, because it's simple, I'm going to leave it here. We're going to put position absolute semicolon top. Put an L instead of a semicolon, top 20 pixels. I'll put 0 for now. Show you what that looks like. Right 0, go back, refresh. There we go, it's in the top right. Doesn't look very good just being there without any gap on, you know, the edges of the browser, so the top and the right of it. So I'm going to put top right as 20 pixels and 20 pixels. I just find this looks pretty cool. Click it. There we go. We got our toast notifications. You can stack them as well. That's part of the API guide. Should be here somewhere. There we go. Placement, stacking. Feel free to, you know, have a look at that and, you know, experiment. So that's it. Really simple stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this Bootstrap video, I am going to show you how to implement tooltips in Bootstrap 5. So what is a tooltip? If I go to the Bootstrap website, and a tooltip is, if you see these buttons, so if I click on, hover over, I should say, on this one, you get this little tooltip over it, and this can provide some extra information. It might just, you know, explain what this button does. That's on the right, that's the bottom left, and this one is with HTML, so feel free to check that one out as well. You can, you know, check out the disabled states as well, and a bunch of other stuff, and all of the options that are available. I'm just going to show you how to implement a basic one, and then from there you can, you know, utilize this. So it says make sure you include popper.js. That's something I've already, I had to hear someone, there we go, already included when I set up Bootstrap in the setup video. If you are new to this and have gone straight to this video for tooltips, make sure you've got that there. Okay, so what we're going to do is implement our, just a similar button to what is on there. So I'm going to put type equals button, and then I'm going to show you how to, you know, activate it via JavaScript. It can be a bit convoluted if you don't know what you're doing the first time. btn-secondary. Feel free to check out my video on buttons for more information on buttons. And I want to call this epic button. And we also need a data dash toggle equals tooltip. I'm going to put data dash placement equals bottom. So if you want it on the top, you put top. If you want it on the left, you put left. If you want it on the right, you will put right. I'm going to put title is basically what appears in that tooltip. I'm going to put tooltip on bottom. Obviously this is just saying that it's on the bottom, but this can say whatever you want. And I'm just going to say epic tip. And currently, if I go over here, it doesn't appear. We need to actually activate it in JavaScript, and that is up to us as the developer. So that way, if for some reason maybe we've detected that they're on a mobile device, for example, this doesn't look very good. Plus, also mobile devices, though very powerful now in 2020, still not as powerful obviously as a desktop machine, and you might want to save some processing power. Okay, so var options equals semicolon, and the only option I'm going to put is animation true. Feel free to put more options just by putting a comma, then putting the other options like I showed you down here. So there's a lot of options that are available for tooltips. Now what we need to do is actually get the elements of our element document dot get element by ID, and this is what we put here for the ID. So epic button, and I'm going to say var tooltip equals new bootstrap dot tooltip element options, and there we go. Okay, so that should be it, and that's activated. So if I go back, reload, hover, that's not working. Let me inspect, make sure we got no errors. We do have an error. Line 35. Ooh. Should be an equal sign there. Reload. There we go. Tooltip on bottom. It's as simple as that for implementing tooltips. Great for providing extra information without having all of the content on the website, which can look a bit cluttered. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.